Hey everyone, how you all doing today? Today I'm going to be reviewing one of my favorite anime series when I was younger, reviewing it now as an adult, Yu-Gi-Oh! We did Yu-Gi-Oh! Season 1 last time. We talked about Season 1 and the whole Pegasus situation on the island, the Duelist Kingdom island that he had and all that sort of stuff. And it gave some backstory about what's going on. But now we're doing Season 2. And Season 2 is called Rulers of the Duel, and it's in Battle City. Okay, and this is essentially Kaiba's version of Pegasus's tournament from the first season. So after Yuki was declared the victor and everything, Kaiba, forms his own, competition. And basically, what happens is it goes a bit more in depth about the history of the Duel Monsters game. And there's also Egyptian god cards that are presented in the game that are the prized possession. There are 3 Egyptian god cards: Obelisk the Tormentor, Slifer the Sky Dragon, and the Winged Dragon of Ra. Now these are actual real cards you can actually get, and I actually got them. I actually physically had these cards. I had 3 of them. They were all really, really shiny, really nice. They cost like $100 way back in the day. They were really, really cool. And yeah, it was just so fascinating to finally have those, because I don't remember how much of this season I saw when I was younger. I don't think I made it through the whole season, to be honest with you. I think for some reason, I don't know if they stopped airing it on TV or I just lost interest in it. I made it probably about maybe halfway, maybe a little bit more through the second season when I actually watched it on TV when I was a kid. But yeah, I didn't really make it much further than that. I'm fairly certain of that. So let me share a little bit of the backstory here. So, as I said, it goes into the history of the Duel Monsters and the ancient Egyptian ties to it that we kind of mentioned in the first season a little bit. And there was this woman named Ishtar, who pretty much reveals to Kaiba that Yuki was his ancient rival back in ancient times. She shows him these ancient scriptures of Yuki the Pharaoh, and then Kaiba, the sorcerer with his blue eyes, white dragon, and Yuki's dark magician. So those are some of the ancient things. But Kaiba is so, he's so arrogant, he's so narcissistic, he doesn't want to accept his past and everything, okay. So Ishizu mentions to him that there are these Egyptian god cards, and he must win them he wants to win them for himself, and she gives him one of them, and she pretty much gives him the idea to start this tournament. And her whole idea throughout all this, she don't really know what her idea is. Well, no, you kind of do. She kind of mentions it, but there's two things about it. One of the things is that she realizes that there's this ancient evil that has come back that she must put a stop to, and the only way to do it is by the Egyptian god cards the Egyptian gods battling it out again in present time, as it was done many, many, many years ago. So it's like the Pharaoh and Kaiba have to battle it out and all the other ancient evils. So that's when Kaiba does the Battle City tournament, and he has some new rules as opposed to the first one. If you remember, the first season started off with 2,000 life points. You can't attack your opponent directly. You can bring out whatever monster that you want from your hand without sacrificing any weaker monsters. And the only way to inflict damage on your opponent is by playing a monster and then attacking your opponent's monster. It's the only way. You can't, as I said, you can't attack directly. And there's so many other made-up rules that they do. It's like, oh, look, I'm going to bring out my summoned skull, and because it just rained and he has a lightning attack, your moth is more susceptible to my lightning attack. And it's like, you're making stuff up as you go. That's just made up. Those rules do not exist. Those rules do not exist. So anyway, Kaiba has some new rules. All those fake ones, for the most part, are gone. I mean, there's still some more fake crap, but it's not as much as it was before. Also, new rules, you start off with 4,000 life points instead of 2,000. And you can attack your opponent directly, and you must sacrifice for higher monsters to come out. Now, this is identical, essentially, to the actual physical card game, except you normally start with 8,000 life points in the actual physical card game. So I think that's just probably a good idea for like the show's sake to keep it less. So the main rival in this series is actually a man named Merrick, and he, we pretty much start to see him in this series a little bit, and he has the whole purpose of this Battle City tournament is for Kaiba to get all of these Egyptian god cards, but the rare hunters, which is what Merrick uses to gather a lot of these cards that are very rare, they also are competing in this tournament, and that's when Kaiba's like, okay, this is like perfect because all these rare hunters are here. I'm sure that they have the Egyptian god cards, and sure enough, yeah, one of the rare hunters does have the Egyptian god card, and all these battles happen with all these different all these different rare hunters and everything. So when it gets to a point where Merrick makes more of a actual physical presence in the show, as opposed to just controlling his rare hunters and having his rare hunters come out and fight, even though they always lose to Yugi, that's just how it always is. It's revealed that Merrick, honestly, I would say he's probably, as I said, I always like the evil guys. Pegasus, not necessarily evil, but I do like him. Merrick is just the definition of just pure evil, and he gets more and more evil as it goes along, as more and more evil just starts to control him. Okay, just really, 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 really evil. Okay, just really, really evil. And his whole plan is that he wants all of the Millennium items for himself because he wants to be the ruler of the world, and he wants to be the pharaoh, because the backstory of him is that he was born into a family that looks generation to generation, just keeps an eye out for the pharaoh's return. Almost like if you're like waiting for God to return, you're just waiting and waiting in this underground tomb, waiting your whole life there for him to return, but he doesn't return in your lifetime. You just like wasted your whole life just waiting for his return. He didn't want that. Now he's also Ishizu's brother. And Ishizu, as I mentioned, Ishizu's the one who gave Kaiba the idea to start this tournament. And that's also what Ishizu's other plan is. She wants to save her brother from this evilness that has started to consume him. But the other part of this whole thing, if you remember from season 1, I kind of mentioned it, is Bakura. Bakura is one of Yugi's friends. He has like this white hair, but he also has a Millennium item, this ring that he has. And pretty much everyone who has a Millennium piece, a Millennium item, has some sort of darker side. Even Yugi, his pharaoh self, Yugi is his darker half, but his darker half is actually more of a nice guy. It's not like an evil guy like Merrick's evil half is, because he has the Egyptian rod thing, the Millennium rod, and then Bakura also has a very evil side as well. So Bakura is also a very big part of this as well, but he's kind of like, again, he's kind of in the background. It's like as everything is happening here with like the first season was all about Pegasus, and Bakura was just kind of in the background. Okay, Bakura stole Pegasus's eye after he was defeated. Just kind of in the background. With Bakura in this season, you do see a bit more of him, but also, again, he's kind of in the background as Merrick is, playing out his role and everything. And there was some moment, prior to the whole, actually, very, very at the beginning of the season, where Bakura puts a piece of him inside of Yuki's Millennium puzzle. Okay, so that means Bakura's kind of hanging out. A little piece of him is hanging out in Bakura in Yuki's puzzle. But that doesn't come into play until way later. Way later. I think even in another season, I don't think it's addressed maybe at the very, very end of season 2, but I think it's mostly going to take place in a different season, for the most part. So, let's talk about how evil Merrick is, okay? So Merrick, all of his, after pretty much most of his rare hunters fail him, he has one of his most trusted servants, Odeon, kind of do something. Well, we will get to that in just a moment, actually. But he ends up controlling Yugi's friends. He ends up befriending some of his friends as someone named Namu. And then he controls them. And there's just one like evil fight against Joey and Yugi, where Merrick is controlling Joey, and they're both strapped to an anchor that's going to sink down to the bottom of the ocean if they don't complete the duel in time, and whoever loses will not get the key in their box in order to open up their locks. So that means the other person is going to sink down to the ocean and die. And that's just, my gosh, it is just absolutely evil. It's just this evil man. I'm really surprised that they managed to make that, into put that into like a kid show, that they didn't censor all that out, because you know how they censor everything here. So, okay. And, okay, so during that whole thing, it's like, Kaiba doesn't want to shut anything down. He just wants to keep letting this go, because he doesn't believe in any sort of teamwork. He doesn't believe in all the ancient stuff, even though it's all right there. Everything's right there, but he just won't. He's so arrogant. He's so narcissistic and whatever. So that kind of, sets the stage with people not really liking him as things kind of go on here with Kaiba. But when it comes time for, some of the finals here, when they actually are coming, because this is his competition, he's setting the rules, he comes down to the finals and everything. There are 8 duelists left, essentially. Okay, and that would be, well, it's really interesting, actually. You don't really see like this 8th mysterious duelist. Well, no one knows who this 8th mystery duelist is, but when they get on the blimp, that is where they're doing the final competition. Again, this is where like Kaiba's heartlessness comes into play, because they're on top of this blimp. The wind is so strong that people start almost like flying off the blimp, and people's cars are flying everywhere. It's like, I don't care, and then people are getting injured up there. I don't care. This is my competition. These are my rules. Just like, okay. But regardless, there's there are some battles that are happening. So the very first battle is against Yugi and Bakura. Now, prior to this duel, Bakura and Merrick end up working together. These two evil forces end up working together, because what happens is that Bakura wants all of the Millennium pieces. Okay, he wants all of the Millennium items. Now, Merrick does too, but he kind of keeps that from Bakura, but his also main goal is he wants all the Egyptian god cards as well. And because he wants to become pharaoh. Bakura, on the other hand, he doesn't express that. I think he wants to like become god of the world. He wants to destroy the entire world with all of his power that he has from all of the Millennium items. So they end up working together. It's like, okay, if you win the Egyptian god cards for me, I will give you my Millennium Rod. Okay? So that's kind of, okay. Bakura is going to work at trying to win over the Egyptian god cards from Yugi, who has Slifer at that point, and then Kaiba, who has Obelisk, and then Merrick has the Winged Dragon of Ra. Okay. So the first battle in the finals, and this is where it gets really good. Everything prior to this is just kind of like, it's a little bit tame, it's just kind of, but once it gets to the finals, that's when it's really good. First battle is Yugi and Bakura. Okay, the evil Bakura. And things are looking really good for Bakura, but then it's just makes some mistakes and some things happen, and then, okay, just going to back off now, and then Yugi ends up winning. Okay, so Bakura is now out, and he's kind of like, they're all kind of suspicious of him. It's like, how is he able to, be up here playing this game and whatever? It's because it was the evil version of him. Okay. Then the next battle is Joey versus Merrick. And I'm using Merrick in quotation marks because there's a man named Odeon who is Merrick's servant, is actually pretending to be Merrick. And this is where it gets just really crazy, because Merrick is actually on board. A real Merrick is on board, but he is known to everyone else as Namu. They're, Joey's friend and Teia's friend, and, all of their friends, like a friendly little gathering and everything. So when Odeon gets up there to battle and everything, everyone's kind of like, everyone's like angry at him because they think that he's Merrick and everything, but I have a feeling this actually isn't the real Merrick, because you're not giving off the same evil vibe that I got when you controlled my mind and made me battle Yugi. That's pretty much what Joey's thinking. So he has a fake Millennium Rod, And he also has a fake duplicate Egyptian god card, Ra. That is what Odeon has. And Odeon is literally about to win. All he has to do is do an attack, but then the real Merrick, talking to him like telepathically, is like, no. You have, in order to convince these fools, and I love how all these evil people always say fools, because I say fools all the time, so maybe that makes me evil. I don't know. Maybe that does make me evil. I'm always calling people fools. All these fools. Yes, anyway, he's like, you better use the winged dragon of Ra so you convince these fools that you are me. Okay? So, Odeon does not possess the capabilities of playing Ra. He goes to play Ra and things go out of control. Not only that, it's a duplicate Ra. It's not the real one. And things go a bit out of control there, and it just did not work. And then, this lightning from like the gods comes down and strikes both Joey and Odeon, and whoever gets up first, that was going to be the winner. Joey gets up first. I'm like, oh gosh, Joey. I know he's such a nice guy, and he's like he just wants. He's like the guy who like sucked at Duel Monsters at first, and then he got like really good, and he's like always coming in second. But it's kind of like at the same time, I'm not the biggest fan of Joey, so I'm like rooting for Odeon to get up. But no, it's Joey who gets up. He ends up winning, and then that's when Merrick's true identity is revealed, because the evilness inside Merrick, the Yami Merrick, comes out in full force. It's like this, his face like twists all up, and it's like this really evil force within him, and it's just really, really nasty. So now that his true identity is exposed, the next battle is against the real Merrick and my Valentine, like the prostitute kind of lady, the hot chick who's in the show with the big boobs and everything. Of course, now she's no match. She's no match for Merrick. Merrick ends up winning and sending her to the Shadow Realm, which is her worst nightmare come true. Which is, she's trapped in like this clear hourglass up in the sky, watching all of her friends down below, and they can't hear her. And the sand is slowly coming down. She's going to slowly die. So, pretty nasty stuff there. So, then the last battle is against Kaiba and the mysterious 8th duelist, which is Ishizu. Ishizu is the one who pretty much told Kaiba to set up this tournament, who gave him the Egyptian god card Obelisk the Tormentor. And she has the Millennium Necklace, which allows her to see the future. Okay? Let's not say the future. What is destined to happen. Okay? She's able to see what is destined to happen in this duel, and she knows that Kaiba is going to lose. That he's going to... She has all the tactics planned out, and things are not looking in her favor, but then she does something with Kaiba's Egyptian god card. But this is when Kaiba begins to kind of awaken a bit to his ancient self, and he sees these visions from the past, and he sees what is going to happen here if he doesn't change course with this duel. And he's like, okay, Obelisk the Tormentor is not the answer. And then he sacrifices Obelisk, and that's when Ishizu's like, oh no, I can no longer read the future here. I can no longer read what is destined to happen. So now, and then, Kaiba's like, I control my own destiny. And then he ends up defeating Ishizu. And which is really interesting because, she has it this whole time. She knows exactly what's going to happen, exactly how it's going to happen. But then the course of destiny ends up changing. And this is what's really interesting when you think about the real life scenario. It's like, do you consider your life to be predetermined, or do you feel as though you can change certain things that change the outcome? Like if things were all predetermined in this case of this duel, and Ishizu, saw exactly what was supposed to happen, but then Kaiba interfered and said, I'm not going to let this continue the way it was destined to happen. I'm changing my destiny. Really interesting. So that pretty much leaves at the end of the season. This is where the season ends, and it's just so upsetting. Yugi, Joey, Kaiba, and Merrick are, the people who are left. That's where season 2 ends, essentially. I mean, there's one final duel against Merrick and Bakura. And what's interesting about this is, it's Yami Merrick, the evil Merrick, has completely controlled Merrick's body. And then he's fighting up against Yami Bakura, which is, the evil Bakura. But inside of the evil Bakura is the real Merrick, and he's trying to fight to get his body back. So he knows that this evil has controlled him. They go through the duel, but Bakura ends up losing. And and he pretty much goes into the shadow realm. And he's like, I never lose. I am never completely gone. I'm always here. And that's when, at the very end, you see him come back inside of Yugi's Millennium Puzzle. Like that little piece that he put into that puzzle, it's there. So he's going to come back out in some way. But now Merrick, the evil Merrick, now has the Millennium Rod, and he has the Millennium necklace that Bakura had. I don't know what happened to Pegasus's Millennium Eye. I guess maybe he stored that off somewhere else. That's possible, because he wasn't carrying it with him. He didn't, Merrick didn't get the eye and whatever. But that's pretty much where season 2 ends. And unfortunately, for like the first half of season 3, which we'll talk about next time, that's when it goes to a completely different scenario. Like, they're supposed to be going to where Kaiba Corp started, the actual headquarters of where it all started on Kaiba Corp Island. That is where the last 4 people are going to duel for the victor of Battle City tournament. And from that point, when they arrive there, that's when things completely change. And it's like the first half of season 3 is a completely different scenario. So we'll talk about that next time. Because it's like it makes you wait in anticipation, and I cannot stand it. So anyway, that is all for today. Hopefully you have enjoyed this. Let me know what you thought of this season. I actually think I like this season more than I do season 1. I think it's really fascinating, but it's definitely much more evil. And again, I wish I could watch the uncensored version. I guess I could if I watch the Japanese dub. The original Japanese version of it, and just subtitled. Have all of the original music, have the original dialogue and everything. I don't know, but yeah, they definitely dumped it down for kids. But and unless it comes out uncensored, this is just going to have to do for now. Let me tell you this: if it comes out uncensored, I will gladly rewatch the whole thing again. Because I do like it. It's like very addictive to watch, even though it is like very simplistic. But we just talked here for 22 minutes about this. So anyway, that's all. You take care. Have a great one, and I'll catch you later for something else. Bye bye now.